Hello friends and fellow bibliophiles, welcome back to Kat's Novel Adventures. In today's video, I'm going to share with you everything that I read in August. Well friends, it feels like forever since I have filmed a video. In fact, it feels like forever since August, actually. I went on vacation and I feel like I've been out of the loop of things for the time that I've been away, but I'm ready to get back on track. However, I do have some notes to keep me on track for this video, so just letting you know ahead of time, because like I said, it feels like forever since August, and I need to kind of refresh my memory as I go. But very excited to share what I read because I participated in Garb August, the whole month of Garb August, very first time doing that. And I also completed 2 summer readathons that I was participating in for the very first time. And I enjoyed pretty much everything that I read. So let me give you my stats. I read 11 books in August, and of those 11 books, 3 of them were 5 stars, 4 of them were 4 stars, 3 of them were 3 stars, and I had 1 2-star. Now what's crazy is this 2-star is the first I have ever had in all my history of reading. Well, in all the history of recording my ratings, I guess, on Goodreads. And I think that I started back in maybe 2012 or 2013. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So let's talk about Garb August first. I vlogged every week during the month of August for Garb August. This was hosted by Olly of Olly. I chose to do the weekly themes as opposed to any of the prompts on the bingo board. I just felt that would be easier to do, and then I would do a vlog for each week. So please check out my vlogs if you want to hear more details about the books. I'm just going to basically go over them, what my star rating was, and whether or not they were a hit or a bomb, I guess. But for week 1, I chose contemporary romance, and I chose a candlelight ecstasy novel. I knew I was going out on a limb reading this book because I'm not a big romance reader, and I discovered really I'm not a big romance reader when it comes to like steaminess. I don't mind clean romance, and as long as it's not mega cheesy. But this book was a candlelight ecstasy romance, and it is called Love Beyond Reason by Rachel Ryan, also known as Sandra Brown. I found that out. This was my 2-star read. I just didn't really care for it all that much, but I stuck with it and I read it. Please check out my vlog if you have not already, if you want to hear all the details as to why it was not my favorite book in August. Then for week 2, Paperbacks from Hell was the theme that I chose, and I picked up Nightstone by Rick Hartala. Great cover, I will say, great cover. I went into this with a lot of expectations because it was my first Paperbacks from Hell that I was reading, and it has such an awesome cover. I just thought, creepy vibes. Well, I have to say, it was kind of rocky. It's kind of a little too long. You can hear all my thoughts about it in week 2's vlog, but I ended up giving it 3 stars because Mr. Hartala ended up redeeming himself within the last 50 pages. So I was a little generous with Mr. Hartala with that one. Week 3 was a novelization or a book written by a celebrity, and I went ahead and read 2 books for this week. I read the novelization, Star Wars, A New Hope. This was part of the trilogy. This is by Ryder Wyndham. I really enjoyed it. I loved going down, the memory lane rabbit hole because I saw this movie back in the 70s, and I enjoy Star Wars. And I learned a few things that I had forgotten since I had seen the movie last. I ended up giving this one a 4-star. And then for the celebrity read, I read Dance While You Can by Shirley MacLaine. And this is a memoir, and I really did enjoy it for the most part. I gave it 3 stars. It's about her life later on in her 50s, maybe mid 50s, late 50s. And she was making a transition from film back to live performance on the stage. I found it very interesting, and I also got some recommendations from Cameron over at Library Macabre because he likes Shirley MacLaine, and he gave me some recommendations of some movies to check out that I will, because I'm really more familiar with her movies later in life than the ones that she did earlier in life. And then for week 4, it was anything goes, literally anything. So I chose a romance, believe it or not, and it's Bridget Jones' Diary by Helen Fielding. I ended up giving this a 3-star. It was a fun time, but as I mentioned in my vlog, I think I enjoyed the movie more than I did the book. And then I also chose like a murder mystery, and that is Diminishing Returns by E.L. Withers. This is an older book, and it had some Agatha Christie vibes to it. Really enjoyed it, and this was the last book that I read for Garb August, so I really did go out on a high note, and I gave this one 4 stars. One of the summer readathons that I participated in was Big Book Summer. This was hosted by Sue over at Sue Jackson. I was supposed to read 4 books, and I only ended up reading 2. And of the 4 books that I originally set my goal for, I only read 1 because I just ran out of time. And the whole point of Big Book Summer is to read books that are at least 400 or more pages. So the 2 books that I ended up counting for Big Book Summer were Nightstone by Rick Hotala. This book clocked in at 592 pages. Very, very chunky. Now, I will say it could have been shorter. And as far as the other book, I was very excited that I was able to get to it because I really wanted to read this for 2022 and didn't get to it. So it ended up being on my 23 books for 2023. And that is Fairy Tale by Stephen King. Very excited to get to this. This chunker came in at 598 pages. I did a whole entire video on Big Book Summer, my wrap up for that, and really talked a lot about Fairy Tale. So if you want to hear more of my thoughts on that, please check out that video. But I will say this was a 5-star read for me. Really enjoyed it. It's a portal fantasy, wonderful characters. Glad that I finally was able to read it. The other summer readathon that I participated in was Summer Book Bingo. This was hosted by Tiffany over at Beautiful Minutia. This was also another fun readathon. There were plenty of prompts to choose from. I ended up reading 6 books in the month of August for Summer Book Bingo. Now, 3 of the books I also read for either Garb August or for Big Book Summer. And it's not going to be a surprise that Nightstone is one of them. This counted for the prompt of reading a book that was over 500 pages, and we know it was 592. And then I also read Dance While You Can by Shirley MacLaine, counting this for the prompt, read a book that you owned for 5 or more years, and I've owned this book for over 20. It's been sitting in a bucket in my house for a very long time. So very excited that I finally got to this book. And then, of course, Fairy Tale also counted. This counted for the prompt of a standalone sci-fi or fantasy book. So very excited that I was able to use some of the books for other readathons, also for Summer Book Bingo. Now, the other 3 books that I read are books that I have not talked about for anything else, and they were specifically read for Summer Book Bingo. And the first one is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret by Judy Blume. This is a classic. It is a middle grade book. I counted it for the prompt of coming of age. I was so excited to revisit this book as an adult. I read this book back in the 6th grade. I remember my neighbor, LaDawn, had this book first, and she ended up lending it to me. And I felt like such a big girl because it talked about topics, that, we were kind of like a little shy about talking about. I mean, it's about womanhood, it's about bras, it's about periods, it's about, all kinds of things that when you're starting to become a young adult, I guess. But anyway, just loved reading it from an adult point of view as opposed to reading it as a teenager, because I know there was lots of giggling going on when I read it the first time, but just amazed at how ahead of the times Judy Blume was, because this was written back in the 70s and it did not get high acclaim back then because of some of the subject matter. Also, it's about Margaret, and she's moving from New York and she's moving to a small place in New Jersey, and she's trying to navigate a whole new environment, new school, new neighborhood, new friends. She meets Nancy. Nancy's the one that's introducing her to all this, topics about bras, and they have a little secret club and they talk about boys. And Margaret's also trying to explore religion, what place it has in her life, if any, and then also her relationship with God. So I just thought it was wonderful to revisit it. Very surprised at some of the parts of it that I had forgotten about, that now that I think about it, I'm like, wow. I mean, I think people would be shocked by some of the content in it. Not that it was presented in a bad way or in a way that's offensive. It's just that, for the, I guess, age group or age range, if you're not a mature reader, some children might be upset about it, some parents might be upset about it, but I don't know. I loved it and was so glad to revisit it, and I can't wait to watch the movie because I'm almost positive that Kathy Bates plays Margaret's grandmother. So if that is the case, then I think that was going to be a good choice, because I really did love Margaret's grandmother. I forgot to mention that I gave Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret 5 stars. Yes, it's a classic and I think it's fantastic. I think it well deserves its 5 stars. The next book that I'm going to talk about is another coming-of-age story, and that is The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants by Anne Brashars. Now, I would consider this more of a YA novel, whereas Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret is more middle grade. But this story counted for the prompt for Summer Book Bingo for reading a book by an author who is born during the summer. And Anne Brashars is born on, or was born on, July the 30th. And this story is about 4 girls who hang out all the time. They're very close. And this is going to be the first summer that they are apart. And they're going in all different directions. You have Lena, who's going to Greece with her sister to visit their grandparents. You have Bridget, who's going to California to participate in a summer soccer camp. You have Tibby, who is staying home, but she's getting a summer job for the first time. And then you also have Carmen, who is going to South Carolina to visit her dad. And as they are in their different places, they have agreed, because of these pants that one of them has found. I can't remember which girl it is that found it. I think it's Lena. Lena finds it in the thrift store. And they have decided that they are going to have adventures with these pants. One girl will wear them, and after a time will send them on. And the pants are kind of magical because all of these girls are different body types, but the pants fit them like it should. And they feel confident in the pants. They decide to take risks while they're wearing them, but it's just something that ties them all together because they can't be together physically. I really did enjoy it. It was a 4-star read for me. I loved the character of Tibby the most. She becomes friends with a young girl that has a terminal disease, and it really does open Tibby up to be more, I don't know, personable. She finds more empathy. It also allows her to meet a guy and they become friends. All of their adventures have some kind of challenge to it, and they also learn a little bit more about themselves. And then, of course, they are going to come together again and talk about their adventures. There's also letter writing that happens between the girls, so you kind of find out a little bit about what's going on with each other, or they are kind of in contact with each other. But I would love to read the next book in the series. There's a second book, and I actually picked it up one day when I visited the Friends of the Library store in Covington. So very excited to get that. I haven't watched the movie yet, so I think what I'm going to do is watch the movie, this movie, before actually reading the second book and just see how it plays out. But yeah, a good one overall. And then the last book that I read for Summer Book Bingo is one that was a favorite for this month, and another 5-star read, and that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This was the pick for the FOMO Book Club, the July and August pick. I absolutely loved it. This is about Achilles and his relationship with Patroclus, but it really is told from Patroclus' point of view. But it takes place from the time Patroclus is a young boy all the way through until adulthood. This book does talk about the Trojan War. It talks about different mythological elements or characters, but at the core of the story, it is a love story. It is a love story of Patroclus and Achilles, and it was very well done, very well written. I really enjoyed it. I love the character of Patroclus. There are so many heartbreaking moments with his backstory and his relationship with Achilles, and then what happens towards the end. I don't know. It just stuck with me for some time after reading it, and I would love to read more of Madeline Miller's work because, like I said, it's beautifully written. Even though Achilles is a warrior, in the beginning, you have a little more compassion for him, but he's a character that changes over time, and that's because he is a warrior, and he was meant to be a warrior, and that's what he was trained to do. And so you have a lot of peaks and valleys with their relationship, but I would highly recommend it to anyone who loves mythology. This counted for the prompt for Summer Book Bingo for the mythology prompt. But anyone who enjoys mythology or mythological retellings, because that's what it is, it's a retelling. There are some parts that get a little bit violent, so if you're not into that kind of content, just be aware of that because it does involve war, and we know that war doesn't solve the problems. The problems are still going to be there. But if anybody knows any history about the Trojan War, it was a very long war. It was fought over a woman and other issues. Overall, very good book. I enjoyed it. And it was a love story, believe it or not, a love story, a romance within the overall story of Patroclus. I'm really pleased with how I did for my first Summer Book Bingo. I earned 3 bingos throughout the summer. I almost got 5, but I couldn't finish The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie, which would have counted for my friend rack and earned me 2 more bingos. It was recommended to me by my friend Liz for my year of Christie, but I just wasn't able to finish it in time. I had started it the day before I was driving to Atlanta. We drove to Atlanta on August the 31st, and after 8 hours of driving, I was pooped, so there was no way I was going to finish it before the end of August. But that was okay. I earned my 3 bingos, happy with that, and I did end up finishing The Murder of Roger Ackroyd in September in Sicily. So I'll talk more about that book for my September wrap up. I mentioned that I had completed 11 books in August, and I've only talked about 10 of them. So last but not least, this book is a book that I completed in August, but had started previously in the year. And it is also on my 23 books for 2023. And that is Choose Joy, 3-Minute Devotions for Women. This is published by Garb Books. I was supposed to read this in 2022 for a little project I was doing on Instagram called Year of Joy, and I misplaced it and didn't find it until towards the end of 2022. So I said, okay, I'll just go ahead and read it in 2023. So I started this in January, and it is little devotions that just bring some inspiration or a little more joy into your life. Each of the devotions begins with a scripture reading. Then there is a passage that incorporates that scripture reading and gives you some food for thought. And then there is a prayer at the end. So I really did enjoy reading this book. Sometimes I would read one devotion. Sometimes I'd read one in the morning and one in the afternoon. But I did complete it in August, and I will put it back on my shelf because it is the type of book that I can refer to and pull down from time to time when I need a little inspiration or a little pep talk, or I just want to choose a little more joy. That's a wrap of everything that I read in August. I really had a great reading month. I loved participating in Garb August the whole entire month. I had previously only participated in the week-long event in February, so it was really fun to be able to participate all month long. And I also really enjoyed both summer readathons. They were a lot of fun, and I'm hoping I'll get to participate in both of those and Garb August again next year. How about you? Did you have an adventurous August? Did you have any favorites that you enjoyed reading? Did you participate in any of those readathons? If so, let me know in the comments below. As always, I appreciate you stopping by. It means the world to me. I always appreciate your comments and just supporting me as well as my channel. And I look forward to seeing you either on Wednesdays when I do my sprints or in the next video. In the meantime, stay amazing and be adventurous.